within our world, watching dreams without blue skies floating by. Why are the grey clouds forming overhead, forming overhead? I'm trying to breathe, I'm following a path mapped out from the start. Why do my dreams keep moving out of sight, moving out of sight? Sunshine that I seek shines faintly through the smoke, layers of fantasy, images that blind us to our lives, blind us to our lives. And I'm trying to see, I'm juggling with my things, I'm struggling with the cold, and I'm spinning in a vortex of burning words, of burning words. Ooh, and my head's on fire. Oh, where's the love inside my heart to wake me up from storyland, from a deep sleep? We'll save the forest, we'll save the mountains, we'll save the ocean when we save our lives. We'll save the children, we'll save the old ones, we'll save our earth when we save our lives, by doing no harm. Ooh. We're living for the love that lights up in our hearts. We're living for the dream of a world of do no harm. We're living for our kin, our tribe of conscious men. We're living for the truth, no more waiting for saviors. No more waiting, no more waiting, no more waiting, no more waiting. We'll save the forest, we'll save the mountains, we'll save the ocean when we save our lives. We'll save the children, we'll save the old ones, we'll save the when we save our lives. We're living for the love that lights up in our hearts. We're living for the dream of a world of do no harm. We're living for our king, our tribe of conscious men. We're living for the truth, no more waiting for saviors.
Hello, this is The Dream of Life Part 5D. This video we wanted to talk a bit about the intelligence networks that operate all over the place, basically. A lot of people think this is a bit far-fetched, maybe, but we've seen so much evidence of it over the years, and we comprehend why it is so important for those of the system to have intelligence agents everywhere, basically because they can then control what's going on. We've talked a lot about, well, in many of the stuff we've written, we talk about we will lead every revolution against us. Which is supposed to be a quote from someone high up behind the system, which basically means that whenever they sense a new movement growing, a feeling of dissatisfaction, people saying, oh, we've got to change this, we want to do this, they send in their people to control that movement, that feeling, whatever's happening.
It's a world of images. We keep bringing this up. If they can get you to think what they want you to think. Now, these thoughts are images. So if they can get you to put your energy into those images, get you to think those thoughts, and get you to give your life to those images, you'll set those images into motion. And we have the power of life to set all our thoughts into motion. And this is what the whole game is all about, controlling how we're thinking, controlling about what we are doing about what we're thinking. And that means that, for instance, if we're starting to think that we want to escape the system, or we want to change the way we're living, they will send in their intelligence agents to become either friends, because they talk about the same kind of mantras. And in doing that, they get to know how you're thinking. They get to know who your friends are. They get to know what your plans are. They get to know about your world. And then that intelligence goes back into the main central networks, where they can then continue to plan how they can execute the destruction of dreams of people like us and what we're dreaming for, because we are dreaming to get out of the system completely. We don't want the system. The other way they do it is through, as Fiona's touched on, they know that, for example, we bring up Pauline Hanson, the One Nation Party that occurred here in the 1990s, is where there were so many Australian farmers and generally Australian people, particularly in Queensland, who were so disenfranchised, so angry and unhappy about their loss or suffering because of the bank interest rates going up into astronomical rates, that really, it happened on a series of occasions during the 70s and in the 80s, where we lost over 300,000 farming families heading into the 1990s, and in fact we've lost over 500,000 probably up until right now. Now, a lot of these people will start to learn, or some of them will start to learn about what really the banking system is all about. They'll be angry about the political side. They'll be angry about it doesn't matter whether you're Labor or Liberal in terms of politics, or Democratic or Republican, or whether it's even alternative independent, like a Ron Paul that's now coming to the surface strongly in the American elections. But the point is, they send these kind of people forward to try to capture these breaking groups. Now, there might have been, we're only saying, maybe 500,000 Australians angry and really pissed off about the system and what had happened to them during this decay that occurred back in the 70s, 80s and the 90s. So they bring up a Pauline Hanson into the main arena and get her talking the mantras that has the rednecks, all these angry people, resonating with her because she's saying all the right things. So then they will then join the One Nation Party. And then the One Nation Party starts to move forward as a movement to do something about making right what's been made wrong, that appeases the general sentiments of all these people who are feeling angry against the banks and the system. But then within that One Nation Party, they had intelligence networks, because they're getting to know who the people are, where they live, what their plans are, what the groups are, finding have anything about guns and weapons, or they're ganging up and planning vigilante groups. That kind of stuff goes on. And more than that, what they also do is they build up the hopes of everybody they're going to get a remedy. But then these intel networks within the One Nation Party, those who are actually controlling it, will cause it to self-destruct. One side in the party will start to fight with the other side. Bickering will come out. They'll start accusing each other that someone's done something wrong. It doesn't matter what the story is. You'll see this beginning of self-destruction and decay. And then the whole One Nation Party starts to collapse, and all this is played out in mainstream media. It's telling everybody in the media that we can't get on with each other. We can't work together, etc. And so that whole thing collapses. Then the offshoots from that, they'll have friends and relationships that form, and some of these people will continue being intel agents, so they keep monitoring, because they're all inside these groups, monitoring what these people are planning to do. So it's all about control, our thinking, our thoughts, making sure we self-destruct what we're planning to do. And so at all times, We are not a threat to the system, to the force behind the system, and allowing the system to continue rolling along with them having all the power.
Or it keeps people distracted from the real problem. It's like what we're always saying, you've got to learn about what's happening, how the system runs and why and everything before you can get out of it. What they do is they keep people distracted from that. So in you know, movements that are all about Greenpeace and all this or whatever, they don't mind. They're quite happy to feed that, let that keep going, get that gain momentum, because they know that that's still not a threat to the system, because everybody involved is still part of the system and not even trying not to be part of the system. So you know, so many people think they're part of a group that's standing up against the government, and isn't it fantastic? But the people behind the system don't care at all, because you're still putting your energy into the system. You're still giving it the life it needs to keep those in power, so they're happy. It's like people who go to court all the time to fight over various things. That's fine. The judges don't care. Those behind the system don't care, because you're still putting your energy into their system. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And everything's about the system. The fact is that it wasn't paperwork that invaded all the lands. It wasn't the systems of politics and government and religion, New Age philosophies, esoterics, occults. None of these things actually invaded the lands and decimated all the tribes of man on all these lands. It was the force. It was the men and women with the intention to invade the lands and decimate the tribes through whatever means they applied, so that they could then introduce their methods of philosophy, politics, etc., to keep their power and control over the conquered. Because these systems are the methods used to maintain power and control over all the captives. And that's what it's all about.
It's really easy to like look at the laws and say, oh, that's unfair, and look at the paperwork, but the paperwork's just useless. It's just a piece of paper. It's the men and the women who enforce those pieces of paper that are responsible for the harm that happens in those situations. A piece of paper can't do anything, which is also why a piece of paper declaring that you're a free man or a sovereign being or whatever is going to be useless if there's a man at the door with a gun. It's just a piece of paper. It doesn't do anything.
It's got no power. All pieces of paper, no matter what's written on a piece of paper, has no power whatsoever. Anyone who wakes up from the prescriptive medication, that is the statutes whether you want to call them laws and rulings, or whether you want to call it common law, whether you want to call it any kind of law, man-made law, it is all prescriptive medication. They're sedatives to keep you dumb, down and stupid. The whole idea is to maintain the standing that some men and women have a higher standing than you and your family and us and everybody else. That all men and women are not equal. That some have a higher power than the rest of us. That's what this is all about and has always been about. So it doesn't matter if they sell you Buddhism, or whether they sell you the Dalai Lama's philosophies, or whether they sell you the Galactic Federation channelings, or quantum physics, with whatever it is that the science have pitched you and the kind of spells that you're now regurgitating. Again, watch the Dream of Life videos, because we talk about spells, what this means. But these spells is what keeps us glued to the system, because while we're a Buddhist, we're a slave to the system. While we're a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim, you are a slave to the system. You're a slave to the tiny few who have the power to rule you. So they've got to keep you distracted, keep you expending your energy in such a way to the system, willingly, without any resistance, while you maintain a state of compliance.
Yeah, so there's no piece of paper that will act as a magic shield, you know, against the force of the system. If those behind the system decide to send their force down upon you, it's like what you were talking about, Moses and the Red Sea. There's no piece of paper that's going to magically part the waves so you can walk through shielded from the force on either side.
Well, going back to saying that when you're raising your head above the fog of prescriptive medication, above all the garbage they dumped us down with through the education system, and what we learned through the media, what we learned through the free man movement networks, whatever we've learned, whether it's the Christian networks, the Patriot networks, and whatever the systems of law and whatever the arguments are, When you raise your head above the fog of all of this, what you see is force, and force will see you. And that is what we're dealing with. We're up against force. This force does not want us to return to nature, to return to paradise, to return to kingdom. So they will do what they can to knock us down, ridicule, abuse, sabotage. But they also want to learn about what you're thinking, what your plans are. So you'll find out of the woodworks, as we've discovered in the last 6 years of doing the Love for Life work, some people turn up into our homes. They speak all the right mantras. They talk about the common dreams. Now we'll post the links to some of these up below this video so you can read these links. And you'll see these people, because we did this with Facebook discussions, debates. We did it either sometimes through phone calls, and we documented all the conversation, put it all up with the names. It's all full disclosure. And what you'll see is the tactics of these intel agents in trying to discredit you, trying to undermine you. We have found by the methods we apply, we rout them all out, and they can't discredit us. What they're trying to do is to put doubts in other people's thinking about what we are saying. See, they try to hijack you. They try to hijack anyone by giving you images. Now this one with Fakuri opinion, and you'll know what this really means, Fakuri opinion, it's the name that's put on the Facebook wall. We're saying this man or he or she or they is an intel operation. We'll put that up. We won't talk too much about it. Have a read of that and notice how this intel operation works. They try and take possession of, in this case, he tried to take possession, or she or they try to take possession of our characters. They try to represent how we are thinking and feeling and making it out that these are our thoughts, that these are our attitudes, these are our intentions. What they are doing is actually impersonating us without our permission. They're trying to possess us, and by doing that, they're trying to project images into you the viewer, you the reader, putting it into your head that these thoughts are true. So that you'll give life to those images to set them into motion. In that way, you'll turn against the information that we are sharing. Now, they're doing that through the Pauline Hanson movements. They're doing it through all the forms of politics. They're doing it through every area of the system. The same stuff goes on. There's intel agents everywhere.
And a really good article of that, which is on the website, is about Laurel Canyon in the 60s in America, where basically the birth of the flower power movement started. Very interesting read indeed, long but well worth the effort, because it shows you just how many people at the supposed forefront of that that movement, supposedly leading this flower power peace movement, were actually military trained and military controlled, and yet,
intel agents
yeah,
as
intel
well.
agents basically.
Be shocked to find out that David Crosby, Jim Morrison, and so many of the well-known artists of those times were actually intel. And it all makes sense, because by bringing these kind of people into the mainstream arena to capture the common thinking of all the people who wanted freedom of those times, they can then provide the intelligence back, because they become the friends, they become trusted. They deliver all that information back into the intel networks, who then can plan accordingly to deal with this movement. Hence the hippie flower power movement, the free drugs and sex and all the orgies and all that association, which actually destroyed and totally discredited the real men and women who were leading out front the real freedom truth movement, who weren't into drugs, who weren't into sex and orgies and all this sort of stuff. So they actually captured that movement. It's like fishermen casting a net, and this is what the Freemasonic satanic world does. They cast nets over the people, and they use their shepherd, who's the fisherman who's cast the net, to control all the people trapped in that net and try and direct that flock, that whole lot of fish, into a direction where they can control it and determine its outcome.
And exactly the same thing's happening now. If you see, you've got lots of people who are sick of the system as it is and want something different, so they're captured into the free man movement, they're captured into the sort of alternative lifestyle movement, they're captured into the ringing cedars movement, and you know, all people with good intentions generally, but they don't see how they've been hijacked, because they're still within the system that is causing all the problems. So no matter what and that's why nothing ever succeeds. That's why we haven't come to a world of truth peace, freedom, joy, and all that for everybody, because everything is still within the system, and the system is based on fear, trauma, force, and everything that is anything but those lives that we all dream about. This is why nothing's worked, and this is why we're saying it's imperative that we leave the system behind, we get away from it altogether, because that's the only way we're going to get somewhere.
For example, you get people who come forward who create websites, and they provide an enormous amount of information based on truths about fluoride, aspartame, etc. People start to trust them because these people look like they're really doing the right thing and they're exposing all these things. But if you notice carefully, these people are intel agents. Many of these we will lead every revolution against us, lackeys, deceivers, who have dominant presence on the alternative, breaking into mainstream media waves, are these people. What they're doing, they will not they try to control the general thinking so no one thinks about the real remedy that gets us out of the system, because that is the only remedy we've got. We've got to get out of the system of harm doing, and all our work shows clearly, and in our debates with these people, it shows clearly that what we're saying is spot on. If you want to rout these people out, ask them. And there's many, many names we can give you. And I stress the point. They're in the raw food, living food movements. They're very well named, some of these people. They're in the health movements. They're in the free man movement. They're in the sovereignty movement. They're in the alternative movements in terms of permaculture and biodynamic gardening. You'll find some of these people. They are intelligence agents.
Movement.
The New Age movement particularly. The movements like David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tsarian. All these people are working against all of us. There are many names. We're going to list all these names. We're going to point out to you, these people do not want to provide you with the world of freedom, truth, peace, joy, abundance, and do no harm for all of life, without causing loss of uniqueness to anyone or anything, and without the need for slaves and rulers. You look carefully at the tactics, they will suck you in, and they're going to suck everybody in to accept another version of the system. Why? Because all the time you've been trapped by the images that they provide you. They're all spells to keep you distracted, embroiled, and arguing and debating for. All in areas of health, all in areas of corruption and injustice, you name it. But you don't focus your energy because they've kept you so distracted of your choice by perpetuating these images, stopping you from actually putting your energy into the remedy of do no harm, where we actually together start working together, pulling out of the system collectively here and now.
Because while we're arguing for politics, we're not creating that world. While we're learning, spending hours and hours on the net and in books learning the law so we can achieve our freeman status, we're not achieving those lives of freedom for everybody. While we're running off on some cosmic inner journey, we're not creating those lives in the lives of those around us. We have to create it for everybody else. We can never have it.
Exactly.
And this is one of the biggest problems. Everyone's on about my sovereignty, my politics, my inner journey, my freedom, my peace. Sorry,
My land,
you got
my money.
You got it all wrong. You've got to start looking for everybody else first,
Exactly.
and then the same will come back to you. You start creating peace in the lives of those around you, and joy and abundance, you'll find that's what you get in your life. But while you're focused on me and what I want, you're just going to create selfishness in everybody else as well. And so this is where we're all going wrong, and this is why there is so much stuff running all through every area of the system about you and what do you want and your journey and your rights and your individual this, that and the other, because they want us all to focus on ourselves, on me and what I want,
and the
forget
issues
everyone
and
else.
the issues of those images keep you embroiled in it. Doesn't matter. There's 1,001 of them. They saturate Facebook. They saturate the emails that come through onto your desk. They saturate the media. They saturate when you go out to the pub. They saturate you in the sports arena, in the fashion industry, in just everywhere you go. These are images, because remember, we're the ones who set these images into motion. If they can control your brain, so you keep directing your energy into these images, you will not create the remedy. Meaning that you will not have the defense mechanisms in place. You won't have the community immunity in place. You won't have the remedy to allow you to move forward with your children, your family in the do no harm world, because you haven't created it. Meaning that you will accept the remedy that they're going to force on you very shortly because you haven't put one in place. And that means that you've got no food. You're still sucking on the nipples of the system corporations for your water, for your food, for your shelter. You're still sucking on them to tell you how to think and feel, and who you are, what your role is in life, where you're going with your life, because you haven't actually used your brain and thought it through logically. The key is to take full responsibility for everything we think, feel and do. Do watch the Love for Life videos we've been putting on the Arthur Love for Life YouTube channel. The Dream of Life videos cover this from part 1 to part 5. See, they cover all this in great detail. The interview we had with Ben Lowry shortly, I'll put that link up. Have a listen to that. It covers a good 89 minutes of the overall view of this work that we're talking about. Have a look at some of the strawman information that we're talking about. And there are other things that we cover in these videos, so we don't have to repeat it in this one. The point of this video is stop getting distracted by the spells. Stop falling into a state of belief. Stop being deceived and deluded by all this mesmerization of spells that keep your waking life totally caught up in everything they want you caught up in, so you do not put your energy with men and women like us and others who want to create kingdom here and now in the moment. And that's what it's all about. We've got to pull out now and stop giving our energy to the system.
And if you want an example very clearly, because I think sometimes people find it hard to get this thing of, I'm setting things in motion. They don't realize it, but I was thinking of an example when I've seen a young child, 2 or 3, who's never had a tantrum. And they've gone out, and I've witnessed this, and they've watched another child having a tantrum. And then they've gone home, and they've tried out having a tantrum. Now, before they witnessed that other image of the other child's behaviour, never occurred to them to behave like that. But they went out, they saw it, and that image went into their brains, and so they tried acting it out. And this is what we do all the time. I mean, that's a really simple version, and you see it in children all the time, because we all know that young children observe a lot, and then they try out what they've seen. They give it a go to see what happens and what it's all about, to try and comprehend what they've seen. But this very simple thing is exactly what we do. We go out, we see an image, or we read a magazine article about someone who's discontented with their marriage, and we start going, what about my marriage? Maybe my partner's not so hot after all. Maybe he does this and
he hasn't got a big enough penis.
And you read a survey. Does he do this for you? Does he do that? Does he do? And pretty soon, whereas perhaps you were perfectly content with what you had, pretty soon by reading all the boxes and finding out that he's only a C instead of an A, you start being discontented. And once you start looking for the faults in your partner, suddenly that's, you focus on something that becomes bigger and better, and suddenly all you're looking for is the negative and not the positive, and you forget all the positive traits about your character, which is why you got together with them in the first place. And there are so many relationships that are now breaking up, and so much of that is because the influence of the media saying, but is he good enough? Is he what you really want? Does he fit every single box? Is he perfect? And this is all images going into our head. There's something better. There's something better out there. You deserve better.
Exactly. What Fiona's touching on is what we call echoes. When the child learns that behaviour, the child is echoing or representing that image. We have learnt as through childhood to represent the thoughts and images and actions of other men and women as if they are ours. We've not actually created that image through our direct experience, direct perception with nature. We've actually learned it through other men and women who told us how to think and feel that information. Now, the same thing happens as grown-ups. So much of what we are thinking and our thoughts, and many phone calls we receive from men and women with all good intentions talking about their way forward to freedom, often I'm hearing they're representing thoughts of other men and women, because we know, and we can debate with all these people who talk about freedom, most of them, that they won't be able to find a life form anywhere in nature where our children can go to, who have not been exposed to that information, who have not learned anything about that, the intellectual property of that information, can go to that life form and get the life form, naturally tell that to our children without us having to explain it to them. This is key to everything that goes on in the Freemasonic satanic world. When you can recognize that we are an echo, meaning the thoughts and images that we are representing are the echoes of other men and women, this demonstrates the spell that we are under. It demonstrates the hold that it has on us. It demonstrates to us that we are possessed, as in possess Zion, possession. This is the craft of black magic. This is what the intel networks are all about. This is what the base of all politics and religion and science and law. when these invaders came on the land and decimated all the tribes and kept what remained of the tribes, mainly children, they brainwashed them into the systems which came out of the treasure chest. They brought off their ships and re-educated them so they would lose their true tongue, so they could lose their true history and start to be the echo in the image of the men and women, the conquerors, who told them how to think and feel about who they are, what their life is, what their values are, and where they're going. And so much of what we're thinking today and what we're using today in the system is that. It's not us. Guys, it's not us. We've got to wake up to who we really are. So I'm saying to you, and Fee's saying it to you, watch out for the intel networks operating within the Ringing Cedars networks. Watch out for all the offshoots of the new websites that are now operating through the breakdown. For example, the Ringing Cedars Revolution Forum will provide the link that's broken down. This is an intel job. We see also an intel job. There's an offshoot of this now breaking out. Again, you'll see the pounding of these images to keep you distracted so you do not go to remedy. They do not want you to go to remedy. All through the health networks, they don't want you to go to remedy. All through the sovereignty movement, they don't want you to go to remedy. Explain it to you again another way. What Fiona mentioned before about the Red Sea. All this intellectual property that makes up the system, again, it's explained in the Dream of Life videos. All this intellectual property was made by them. It came out of their treasure chest. This intellectual property has no force. It's got no power. The only people who got the force are the force behind that paperwork. So when you read stories like Moses and the Red Sea and how Moses was able to part the sea so that the Israelites could pass through, what we're talking about here is the intellectual property of that time, in this case, the intellectual property of our time, to move apart so that the free mans can walk through the Red Sea of all this intellectual property through into a safe haven and not be touched by the force behind it, is what we're talking about here. I can assure you, nobody can get through that intellectual property through paperwork unless they let you. The force has to permit you. And if they're letting you do it, it's because either it's convenient to their long-term agenda, or the people leading out front who've manipulated you into thinking that information are them. And that's what you've got to watch out. We're up against force. They do not want us to return to the real world, guys.
And we've said again and again, there is nothing of the system that will set us free, because the system is designed to keep us enslaved to the system. Why, this is the whole plan of the system. So why would they then have intellectual property within their system that allows you to be set free? It's just not possible. And it's like something we wrote in the discussion that we're going to refer to after this, is that we must not be like Lot's wife, looking back and thinking perhaps there is something in the system after all. Oh, please, maybe there's something in the system, because there are all things of the system we like and we want to keep. We mustn't be like that, because the system is dead. We will never find sanctuary from the system. The only way we find sanctuary is among men and women, because other men and women are the only ones who can help us, support us, nurture us, and be part of a tribe with us. Pieces of paper and the system can't. It's us, it's each other. That's all we've got to rely on.
It's all we've got. Living man, living nature, co-creating gifts with each other. If we all live for the dream that we set into motion, because all dreams are made up of thoughts. If we have the information that provides freedom, truth, peace, joy, abundance, do no harm for all of life, without causing loss of uniqueness to anyone or anything, and without the need for slaves and rulers, then we're in the real world. This is what you need to ask everyone. All these people out front. Ask them, and we'll give you all the names. We'll come out with another video and we'll give you a list of all the names. Ask them, do you live for a world of freedom, or not for a world, do you live for a way of life that provides freedom, truth, peace, joy, abundance, do no harm for all of life, and everything, that's everything of life, nature, trees, soil, plants, you name it, not to harm anything, not to alter anything from its original design, its original intention, and without causing any loss of uniqueness to anything or everything, and without the need for slaves and rulers. Ask them, put it in writing. If you want to go further, ask them to get a notarized affidavit under their full commercial liability and put it in writing that that's what they stand for, right? This is how you'll rout them out. Get them to put it in writing. Because that's the case, let us know about it, because we'll go after these people and point out all the things they've been promoting and saying, and let's see what they say about it and see if they're how severely compromised they are. Again, many of these intel agents are severely compromised, as we all have been. We're all waking up to this nightmare. They were all babies, as we all were babies. None of us were given idiot-friendly full disclosure about the images that were going to be presented to us, that if we give our life to that, to set those images in motion, that we will become dumbed down and stupid and be slaves in the system. Everyone who's playing out in the role in the system, it doesn't matter what level you are in the system, whether you're Pope, the Queen, or whether it's just us or the garbage cleaner or whatever, we are all compromised by this scam. We have to forgive everybody. But in the meantime, we have to rout out all the deception, all the liars who continue to force this scam to keep everyone distracted from remedy. This is what it's all about. This is what we got to do. We got to go back to co-creating with each other. If we can live for your peace, live for your freedom, live for your truth, live for your abundance, live for your joy, live for your uniqueness, live for no harm to you and your family, and you do that for us, and we together as a tribe all do that with each other, we have returned to paradise, because this intention sets that image into motion. That's what we've got to set into motion. Stop setting into motion all the injustice of what they're doing to the seas and the oceans. Stop setting into motion all the injustice, what they're poisoning in the sky, all the crap they're putting in the food, all the political arguments, all the Ron Pauls and the Obamas, all the waiting for the messiahs and all their promised ones, and all the remedies they think they're offering, because they don't offer this remedy. We've got to stop getting caught up with all the things, what happened with Nazi Germany and the Jews, and who's responsible for the Second World War and the First World War and Pearl Harbor, and who's responsible for 9/11 and the Muslims, and who's responsible for this and that and this and that. They're all spells, guys. They keep you distracted. These spells are like a cloak. They cloak you. They keep you hooded so you can't return to remedy. You've got to return to remedy. We've all got to return to remedy now. This is the only way out. There is no other way out. No paperwork is going to solve this. There's no golden magic bullet that's intellectual property in the system to free you. The system is dead. Nothing that's dead can provide anything for the living. Only we can. But we have to put that into motion. We've got to live it. Walk the talk. We're entering into discussion with a guy called Franco Collins, who's got this thing called One Heaven and Eucadia. We're going to show to you that he's a fraud, and everything he's promoting is fraud. There's another guy called Santo Bonacci who we think's a good guy, but what he's promoting is garbage. We're going to point out to you why it's garbage. If Santo wants to come into a debate with us, you're welcome, mate. We think you're a great guy, but you're actually misleading people. You're sucking people down into all these images and misleading people into not able to escape this problem where we can start creating remedy. You need to wake up, mate. We love you. You're a great guy. You know, we're common interests, but we're not attacking you, the man. We're just exposing what you're peddling is rubbish. And we've all been responsible. There's a lot. We were peddling this rubbish, and we're not careful. We continue peddling rubbish. We argue a lot. We argue a lot. We discriminate with each other a lot. We have some close friends we argue with. To continue scrutinising all the information around us. David Icke is a fraud. All right? You're going to find Benjamin Fulford is a fraud. You're going to find that the whole movie of Thrive is a fraud. You're going to find just about everything coming out in them everywhere you turn. It's all rubbish. Apply what we're showing you and you'll see the fraud for what it really is. The basis of all science is a fraud. Nobody in the system can tell you, can't prove to you, first party to first party, through direct experience, direct perception, that the Earth is a planet, that the Earth is turning, that the Earth is going around the sun, that we're part of a part of a solar system, going around a galaxy of many galaxies, all going around a universe of many universes. They can't prove to you that we're on a journey heading from somewhere to anywhere. All we've got that's sensory, that is first party to first party, is us here and now and the images that we are thinking, giving life to and setting them into motion. That's all we got. You know, you go to little Mary, we've shown this in the Dream of Life videos. You've got little Mary who's real, who's sensory, acting out Wonderland and the Alice and all that rubbish in her family home. Now, all that's present in that family home is little Mary, and all the props and characters she's using. Yeah, they all might be dead things, but that's what's present. The whole story of Wonderland, everything she's representing, including the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, are not present. The same with the Galactic Federation, the same with quantum physics, the same with mathematics and alphabet languages, and it goes on and on. Read the post, learn this stuff. You'll see the whole thing is a scam, guys. It's all rubbish to keep you distracted, to keep you in a state of actually to keep you in the matrix so they can rule you, because you're not taking responsibility to be the dream of life, to be the living creator, to be the freedom, to be the peace, to be the joy, to be the abundance here and now, to be the uniqueness, to be the do no harm, and to have your partner be that, and to have your children be that, and to have your next door neighbours be that, and to have your extended family be that, and to have the wider community be that. Because if we're being that, we all together selectively and collectively have set paradise into motion. That's how we fix the problem, guys. There's no other way to fix it. How else do you think you're going to fix it? There's some magic wand come along, some intellectual property that allows Moses and the Red Sea to part the intellectual property of all these distractions, of all these images that we've been drowning and saturated in, so that we can bring through the New World Order? Do you think that's going to be a remedy? Watch out, guys. It's a scam. You're all going to be trapped and deceived. Interesting. The Steps of Kingdom have been blocked by Google. The Steps of Kingdom, the article we're going to put up the link, has been blocked by YouTube. It used to show up on the first page. Now you can't even find it on the third, fourth, fifth page. Maybe this video might force them to bring it back up at the first page ranking. This article, The Steps of Kingdom, shows you clearly how we get out of the mess. It shows you why intel agents like this Fakiri opinion comes on board to try to discredit us. It shows you why all the David Icks and all these other people peddling all this rubbish out there don't have a remedy. They haven't got one for you. All they've got to show you is the spells. They're going to show you all the chaos, but they're going to lead you to another chaos because you haven't taken responsibility to be the remedy in your everyday life here and now. That's what we've got to stop. Stop passing the buck. Live under full liability, full responsibility for everything we think, feel and do here and now. Stop doing harm. Learn that in these videos. So Frank, we're coming to share with you what we know. We know that what you're promoting is rubbish. If you think that's not true, if you want to have a debate, open discussion in the room, you can come and visit us, or we'll arrange, we'll come together and have an open discussion and put it on video and put it out in the open. If you'd like to do that, you're welcome. If Benjamin Fulton would like to do that, you're welcome. David Icke, we know you know us, you stayed in our home, you write to us. If you want to have a debate, come over here, let's have an open discussion debate with everybody. Let's put it all to the test, mate. What about you, Jordan Maxwell? You know us, we know you. As we know Bill and Kerry from Project Camelot, why don't you guys come out in the open? Let's have a debate. I bet you I will expose all the rubbish you guys are peddling. And we'll go on and on and on. We'll rat all of you out because you're all liars. You're all deceivers. You're all intel. You're all sold out. All the best to everybody. Hear from you shortly. Post your comments below if you like, David Icke. Any of you people, post them below. Have a good day.